Good afternoon to all of us in this Second International Forum Cuba 2021. We continue with the afternoon activities, and now we learn about the work of our scientists during the pandemic and the possibilities. They have developed 3 vaccines and 2 candidates. We welcome first Vice President of Cuba Pharma, Mayra, accompanied by a group from Cuba Pharma and from the Finlay Institute. Let us listen to the panel and business opportunities of Cuba Pharma. Good afternoon. In this working session, we have with us Dr. Francisco Dominguez, who is the commercial director of the Finlay Vaccine Institute, Dr. Indira. She is the business director of this institution. To my right, Dr. Merardo Pujol, business negotiator from biotechnology, and Dr. Instance David Curbelo, who is the commercial and business director of the Cuba Pharma Business Group. We will begin our presentation with the presentation of Cuba Pharma, which is the Cuban business organization that groups the biotechnological and pharmaceutical industries of our country. This group is made up by 32 enterprises, which at the same time have 61 entrepreneurial units with 6 lines of production and 21 units of science and technology. The human resources is the most precious ingredient of the industry. We have over 20,000 workers, 278 doctors in science, and 126 with master degree. The biopharmaceutical Cuban industry is characterized by closing the cycle, which is made up by research, activities, development, and production and marketing. The organization has 10 commercial enterprises, the Center of Genetic Engineering, the Molecular Immunoassay, the Finlay Institute of Vaccines, the National Center for the Production of Laboratory Animals Sempala, the Research Scientific Center, Neuroscience Center, Biomed, High-Tech, Digital Tech, and the PharmaCuba Enterprise, among others. The industry develops an intense export activities to over 45 countries. At present has 780 health registrations abroad, allowing them to develop the commercial activity of their products in the different continents of the world. The biopharmaceutical sector in Cuba works in close relation with the Ministry of Health Ministry. Over 58% of the medicines which form part of the basic structure of the Ministry of Public Health are produced, distributed, and marketed in the national territory by Ecomec Enterprise in charge of distributing the products of Cuba Pharma, all produced by the industry in terms of diagnosis system, preventive vaccine, genetic, and innovative products are supplied exclusively to the national system. The industry is to produce research and develop products that have as the main purpose the health of the Cuban people. And the second purpose is exports to enter into the country the necessary resources that will allow our countries to sustain the health system and at the same time to contribute importantly to the economic development of our country. The research development activity is one of the key processes of the industry. Right now, our sector has over 400 research and development projects. Within our research development portfolio, we have over 100 projects of priority aiming at different pathologies, bronchology, neurology, infections, respiratory diseases, gastroenterology, healing, ophthalmology, and cardiology. The themes of oncology and immunology represent 63% of the research development portfolio. Innovation plays a key role. We have a portfolio of a balanced portfolio. That means that we have projects at different development stages, from the preclinic up to the clinical development phase 1, 2, 3 in humans. And with the peculiarity that it is a very strong portfolio in terms of intellectual property. Out of this portfolio, we can say that over 20 of these projects, if they finalize as products, they could be worldwide first-class products. The topic of the pandemic brought about a great challenge to science and innovation in the Cuban biopharmaceutical industry. When the pandemic started in the province of Wuhan in China, the staff linked to the research and development activity of the biopharmaceutical Cuban industry got involved in the research, trying to obtain a product to obtain something that will be able to confront the pandemic. As a result of that effort, great effort, and also the support that the industry had on Cuba Pharma by the top leadership of the country that presided over the Committee of Science and Innovation of our country, in record time, the industry was capable of developing 27 products, obtaining the authorization of the Cuban Regulating Authority in 18 of those products. And right now, they continue working on the development of new products. For instance, they got the authorization in nafafteron. It's a nasal product for vulnerable and risk groups. Also, immunoglobulin T is a polypeptide of a low molecular ingredient. It is a product that was already registered in our country, and it plays a fundamental role in the prevention for elderly people. We also have Everon. It's a combination of alpha and gamma. It was also registered, and it was decisive for the antiviral treatment. We have Sovinsa, is an anti-inflammatory peptide, and those two medicines got the authorization of the emergency use. They were authorized by SECMEC. They were used for the control of the cytoxina disease. The country is proud that in record time they were able to develop 3 vaccines and 2 vaccine candidates. The 3 vaccines, Soberana 01, 02, and Soberana and Abdala became 2 vaccines that were proud. It made the Cuban people very proud because of their high level of safety and also the levels of efficiency obtained. The best ones have been responsible, alongside with the work of the doctors and the health staff, that our country was able to control the pandemic, and we can show right now levels of positive cases and practically no death thanks to the results of these vaccines. We have a productive system, part of our scientific work. We meet the higher standard levels demanded by the Cuban Regulating Authority as well as by the regulating authorities of the world, especially the most demanding ones. In this year, after 2 years of pandemic, in which the world has been practically paralyzed, the biopharmaceutical Cuban industry was capable of continuing a great investment, 100% Cuban, and to be able to inaugurate the industrial complex, the Center of Genetics and Biotechnology in Mariel, with the peculiarity that we'll be able to include in those facilities the production activities from the active principles to the finish production. And they will incorporate projects with higher aggregated value, not only the Genetic and Biotech Center, but also from other enterprises of the group. So Cuba Pharma ends the year with an industrial facility with high standards, and will be incorporated, projects of greater aggregated value will be incorporated, capable of developing, it should be developed by our organization. The industry in its commercial and business activity moves in with different models, characterized by dynamics and flexibility. Within the main business models, we have licensing and co-development models, joint ventures abroad, manufacturing contracts, representation and distribution agreements, and foreign investment in Cuba. As part of companies abroad for the development and marketing of products, we have, for example, the biopharma enterprise. It's based in Spain, 100% Cuban. They deal with the finishing and packing of biological products. Eveprope is being finally produced, developed by the Genetic and Biotech organization to deal with complex ulcers of the diabetic feet. We also have a joint venture, Biotech Pharma, located in Beijing. It is an enterprise that produces and markets in China monoclonal antibody and therapeutical cancer vaccines. In this particular case, we can say that the first monoclonal antibody produced in China was a product developed by the Center of Molecular Biotechnology, and it was precisely their contribution to the joint venture Biotech Pharmaceuticals. We also have a joint venture, Senever Centrum, based in the northeast of China, that has incorporated Cuban technology for the production of different recombinant proteins. In this case, they are producers of alpha recombinant interferon. This is a Cuban technology, and we can say proudly that when the pandemic began in China, the Cuban interferon was selected as part of the 30 drugs that were part of the protocol used in China to cope with the COVID. This company, this enterprise also developed clinical trials in China, a Cuban vaccine against the type B Haemophilus influenzae. We also have Lucanhebe Shandong in China, dealing with the agricultural sphere, which was able to receive the health registration. It's a product to control hematos. We have a joint venture also in China, in Thailand, which is called Avines, dealing with the production and marketing of recombinant protein and monoclonal antibodies. And we also have the IC Neuronic in Spain, dealing with the development and production of medical equipment. So we have a joint venture recently created in London with commercial rights in Ireland, Biopharma Innovation. In this, we have incorporated projects and products with high aggregated value. The purpose is to attract risk capital for the development of these projects, which are mainly aimed at the treatment of cancer, neurological diseases, cardiovascular diseases. We also have Inopsima enterprise in Singapore from the Center of Molecular Center, and they deal with monoclonal antibodies. For us, a strategic goal is to attract foreign investment for the business development and the national territory. And we have a portfolio with investment projects, foreign investment projects, that are beginning to record results. The first joint venture established in the special zone of Mariel is the innovative enterprise. It's a joint venture between the Molecular Engineering Center and the Institute, Park Institute from the United States, incorporating the Simivac vaccine to treat lung cancer, advanced lung cancer, with excellent results in clinical trials that are being developed. That is the first joint venture in the history between the U.S. and Cuba, and it was established in the special area of Mariel with American capital, and it is a business, it's a joint venture that was created after a strong and historic relationship of scientific collaboration between the Molecular Engineering Institute and the Laswell Research Institute, Cancer Loss Institute. We have a portfolio of foreign investment portfolio which we are actively promoting, and we are inviting all the investors that may want to work with the Cuban pharmaceutical industry. The CIMAP as a company enterprise has created a joint venture. CIMAP is promoting the creation of a joint venture at Mariel zone to produce recombinant protein and monoclonal antibodies obtained through the culture of mammal cells at the industrial scale. This is an investment of around $70 million. We also have a project to create high-tech enterprise for the production and marketing of seeds of corn and soya. It's an investment of around $15 million. Also, we have included in the portfolio of foreign investment the establishment of a logistic operator, biopharmaceutical, to respond to the most demanding requirements of distribution nationally as well as internationally. And this is the estimation is $27 million. Also, an investment that promotes MedSol Lab for the production of genetic medicines. Solids is an investment of $250 million. Alca Lab is promoting two investments, one related to a facility for the production of cytostatic products for the treatment of cancer, and also one for the fractioning and purification of human plasma. The Center of Genetic Engineering and Biotech promotes the establishment of an international economic association to increase the productive capacities and marketing of a vaccine against the classical swine fever developed by the Agricultural Division from the Biotech and Genetic Engineering Center. The HISPLACEN is promoting also foreign investment in a plan for the production and marketing of products derived from human placenta. And the Roberto Escudera enterprise is promoting one enterprise for the commencement of a plan to produce semi-solid medicines with an important level of progress. And they're requiring only the completion of the obtention of some equipment, which will allow the very rapid commencement of this important production enterprise. When we speak about the commercial and business activity and the international exchange, the Cuba Pharma Group is mainly searching to establish alliances with enterprises to grant commercial rights that might be in the country or in a region with the purpose of carrying out clinical trials and the marketing of Cuban products. Also, to develop research and academic collaboration for the development of projects in the biotech pharmaceutical sector. Also, joint ventures, agreement for new investment in Cuba and abroad that will expand their productive capacities, and also the development of highly innovative projects. On the other hand, access to venture capitals that will allow us to speed up and have the process of raw materials. This is limited because there are no possibilities to have the necessary financial resources to speed up the development and do it more efficiently and bring it to the market rapidly. We're also searching to establish strategic alliances with suppliers to substitute raw material and other materials for the biopharmaceutical industry. This industry has large productive capacities, the biotech and the technological field. It requires inputs, equipment, so the strategic alliances with stable suppliers is strategic for the development of the industry. And of course, to have access to credit financial sources, for instance, credits. This is our presentation. Any question, any comments, we are willing. Thank you. You mentioned several models of business. Is it possible to combine some of them? The answer is yes. As was said before, we have a long-standing record in our activity, in our business and market work, and there are many examples that link these models, this business model. For instance, with Brazil, we have technology transfer and agreements of supplies with interferon and the human recombinant hydropoietin. This is something which we have developed since 2004 with the Manguillo from the Osvaldo Cruz Foundation that incorporates two business models. We began there with a supply contract of those products, and parallel to this, the transfer of technology took place. In the extent in which we advance in the transfer project, the supply of the product takes the necessary shape corresponding to the stage which we are transferring. For instance, we can give another example. The enterprise recently established, Biopharma Innovation, combines also models. This is a joint venture. However, it also incorporates the model of contracts of co-development. And there are many more examples. All these joint ventures that I have mentioned have incorporated the transfer of transfer of the products which we market at present. And also they have been supporting the licensing of some products. I wanted to ask also, there are several enterprises abroad. Will they be willing to receive investments of thirds We are open to receive foreign capital in the joint ventures which we have already established abroad, as well as those which we have been establishing in Cuba and the special area of Mariel. The company which we have created in London, Biopharma Innovation, the purpose is to attract risk capital to speed up the development of products. And a firm which we have recently established at the Mariel Special Area, which is one of the molecular immunology center, it incorporates products for the diagnosis and treatment of dementia and Alzheimer. That enterprise is attracting, is promoting the incorporation of foreign capital, even with the possibility of being shareholders of those companies. Thank you. Now there will be another presentation for this afternoon. Next, we grant the floor to Dr. Meraldo Pujol, who will make a presentation related to the business activity and the development of products to face COVID from the Center of Genetic Engineering and Biotech.
As Dr. Mayra expressed, I work at the Institute for Genetic Engineering and Biotechnology. We have a portfolio of different biomedical specialties, and also for biotechnical purposes, both in the plant and animal worlds. When the COVID epidemic emerged, faced with the need of developing new products, the Center for Genetic Engineering and Biotechnology mobilized its arsenal of already created products as a way to respond to the requirements emerging from the need to struggle against the pandemic. As Dr. Mayra said before, the center produced different types of interferon which have been widely used in the struggle against the pandemic, and one new product, Jusvinsa, to treat patients at the intensive care units of our country, something that has been most important in the struggle against the pandemic in our country. We have our own vaccine, Abdala, most important in the struggle against the pandemic. In addition to Abdala, we have another vaccine in the making, and I will speak also about the Abdala vaccine based on the protein subunit technology using one of the traditional platforms at our institute. We have other vaccines developed on this platform. They are quite safe and quite simple to develop. As I said, they are very safe and with important advantages in terms of preservation, because they are not very demanding when it comes to cold temperatures required to preserve them. We needed to find a recombinant yeast to replicate the protein present in the spike of the virus in persons infected with this disease. We observed this process, and we used the Pichia pastoris yeast. And based on this recombinant protein that we obtained, we started to carry out preclinical studies in animals and phase 1 and phase 2 clinical trials in human beings with satisfactory results, proving that this vaccine was capable of developing enough antibodies to stimulate an immunoprotective response in vaccinated individuals, offering enough security for all persons in terms of benefits without any risks for their health. So we filed a request for stage 3 clinical trials with more than 40,000 individuals. The trials had very positive results with very good participation of voluntary persons. We established coordination with all entities that involved in the development of clinical trials in Cuba, namely SECMED and the Ministry of Public Health. We did these trials in the provinces of Granma, Guantánamo, and Santiago de Cuba. This phase 3 clinical trial allowed us to prove the efficacy, the effectiveness of the vaccine, and request its massive use. Based on the results of this phase 3 clinical trial, with one dose after every 14 days for a total of 3 doses, we achieved more than 92% efficacy. So we asked for permission to use this vaccine, to use it for emergency purposes. And we were allowed to expand its use in the country. After we got this authorization for emergency use of our vaccine, at a very complex moment of the development of the pandemic in the country, we started to apply the vaccine after the introduction of the Delta strain in the country, which led to a high level of infection and mortality in our country. So our vaccine was capable of providing a high level of protection against the Delta strain. The vaccine showed high levels of neutralization of the virus, a good quality response, not only against the Delta strain, but also against other strains circulating in the country, showing that the vaccine covered a very wide spectrum of the strains circulating in our country. We scaled up our production at the Institute's facilities, and the ICA company in charge of the high-scale production of the Abdala vaccine, and we started the vaccine rollout in our country. That process has developed in a very efficient way. We have provided more than 20 million doses, and we have also exported our vaccine to other countries. We have exported these to 4 countries for a total amount of approximately 40 million doses. Thanks to the marketing system and the entities in our country in charge of the export of these pharmaceuticals. We have also developed our vaccine rollout in our country, which is unprecedented, as it is the case for other countries, something we had not seen before in the world. So we proceeded to the vaccination of the adult population in our country, but there was a need to vaccinate the infant population. We developed clinical trials for uh, young people from 2 to 18 years of age, we observed a high level of seroconversion among children. So we were able to obtain the permission for the emergency use of the vaccine among the children in Cuba. We have carried out trials showing the consistency and durability of the response developed by the vaccine, proving that the response among the vaccinated population lasts in time and is very consistent. The capacity of our vaccine Abdala as a booster of the vaccine proves that after a fourth dose, the level of protective antibodies increases. This has also been seen among the population vaccinated with Sinopharm and Sputnik vaccines from China and Russia, respectively. Ours increases the number of protective antibodies. So, in general terms, as from April 2020, when our vaccine project started, after 18 to 19 months, we have tried to work as quickly as possible to hand over our vaccines to our people and protect the whole nation. We went through clinical trials, the scaling up of production, the obtention of regulatory permits, the massive vaccination, the high-scale production of approximately 40 million doses, the authorization to apply the vaccine to children. We have seen some effectiveness results among the vaccinated people. The vaccine Abdala has proved to be capable of protecting against disease and death by more than 90% of the population. We have seen very positive results in Havana, Matanzas, which are very much consistent with the results that we saw during clinical trials. In addition to handing over vaccines to our national health system, we also sold our vaccine abroad. That is why we have international vaccine business agreements. We have a model based on the direct sale of the vaccine and another type of business, including the technology transfer of the final stages of formulation, filling, and packaging of the vaccine based on the export of the active ingredient from Cuba. This is a general picture about the results that we have obtained with the vaccine Abdala at the Institute of Biotechnology and Genetic Engineering. If there is any question or comment, the floor is open. Well, here we have a couple of questions that we have received. What is the role that Abdala could play in the international vaccine registry? Which are the factors limiting the international marketing of Abdala? When it comes to the marketing process, it already started. As I said during my presentation, we have exported around 15 million doses to Venezuela, Nicaragua, and Vietnam. In Vietnam, they have also started the vaccine rollout among the population. This has happened vis-a-vis the supply of our vaccine to our national health system. As to the development of high-scale production has been a very important challenge, as Dr. Maida said before. These happened at a moment when the blockade has been further tightened. It has been very complex to get the necessary inputs. The biotech industry requires sophisticated inputs which are imported from certified sources that can hardly be replaced by others. This is what is required by the industrial standards. All of these happened at a moment when the blockade has been further tightened more than ever before. But despite that, we have managed to face the challenge thanks to the efforts made by the national health system. One of the aspects that have made this process much more complex has been precisely the blockade. In a more relaxed condition, it would have been much simpler for us. We would have been in a better position to export greater amounts of vaccines abroad. This, of course, affects the possibility of scaling up our production processes. Right now, we have the possibility of scaling up our productions at the new biotech complex in Mariel. But likewise, it will face difficulties when it comes to the purchase of the necessary inputs. Another important aspect is the regulations. Countries are sovereign in terms of their own regulations. They can import vaccines if they recognize the marketing permissions or the authorizations issued by the regulation authorities of other countries, but it is important to get international certifications. This is a process that is also going on in our case. I mean, we have started to establish contacts with the WHO to try to get new certifications, and I will take this opportunity to address another important aspect that has to do with the international politics regarding medications. The entire regulation system is controlled by internationals, by transnationals. All of these regulations go against the least developed countries, which are supposed to comply with these same regulations, and the non-approval of vaccines by international agencies or regulatory agencies limit international marketing. A relaxation that would be better adapted to the present pandemic situation would be very beneficial to favor a wider marketing of vaccines. Thank you very much for your responses, and we give the floor to the next speaker, which will be made by Indira Inturria from the National Institute of Vaccines, FINLAI. She will speak about the contribution of this institution to the production and national and international distribution of the vaccine Soberana. Thank you, Mayra. Good afternoon. It is a pleasure to share with you during this second business forum from Cuba. I will make a brief presentation about the FINLAI Vaccine Institute, and later on we will speak about the vaccine Soberana, which is the vaccine against the COVID-19 disease. At our institute, we have a closed cycle or full cycle platform, as it is the case for most of the companies under Cuba Pharma. We include the research, development of products, the clinical evaluation, and the marketing of our products. We have dedicated more than 30 years to save lives by producing, particularly vaccines. We produce biological products, biopharmaceutical ingredients. We also produce vaccines against infectious diseases, combine vaccines through chemical synthesis, which is one of the processes for which we have very good capabilities. And of course, we have the combined vaccines. One of our most significant products is Vamengok BC. In the year 1984, this vaccine made it possible to do away, to eradicate an epidemic in our country. It has been patented in more than 17 countries and has been and we have exported more than 60 million doses. This is the type of technology that we used to produce one of our Soberana vaccines. Another technology that we develop is the one that has to do with chemical synthesis, produced by the Center for Genetic Engineering, but we share this know-how. We also have these know-how. One of the connectors for this vaccine is one of the founders of this vaccine is the current director of our institute. As to the immunization program in Cuba, covering 13 diseases, we have as many as 11 vaccines, and 6 of these vaccines are manufactured at the Finlay Institute. In terms of our main projects, we have a program of combined vaccines against pneumococcal vaccines. We have Kimivio, which is going through the final approval stage. We are carrying out stage 2 and 3 clinical trials among infants. We have as many as 20 completed clinical trials. This is a very promising vaccine. We have a program for anti-meningococcal vaccines, a vaccine against whooping cough, a vaccine against cancer, and vaccines against diarrhea. So then we had to devise our vaccine Soberana against COVID, the COVID epidemic. There were several names before this name Soberana. They a name preferred by the Cuban people. There's a beautiful story shared by all Cubans behind this name. Our vaccines have one thing in common. They are based on protein subunits. The main antigen is obtained from the spike protein. They are stored at a temperature of 2 to 8 centigrade degrees. We have Soberana 01. We use the external vesicle protein, and we use an adjuvant which is common to 3 vaccines designed for healthy volunteers. We have Soberana 02, combined vaccine with the RBD, the initials used of the tetanic toxoid, which is the protein and used and is specially designed for children using the same platform as the ChemioVio. And we have Soberana Plus, a very simple vaccine using a beautiful technology, as we may say. Uh, the components are RBD plus aluminum hydroxide, designed originally as a booster for innate immunity for convalescents. I mean, patients who already suffered from the COVID disease and patients who have been vaccinated with other vaccines, including Pfizer, Moderna, and other vaccines. And today we're using it as a universal booster, given all the clinical results that we have observed. In the case of Soberana O2, provides a primary scheme, and in the case of Soberana Plus is a booster of the pre-existing immunity. This Soberana O2 allows for the maturing of immunity and induces immunological memory. The vaccine Soberana O2 is the unique combined vaccine against COVID that exists in the world. It was the first vaccine used during the first mass vaccination campaign among children in the world, which, as you know, was made here in Cuba thanks to our vaccination strategy based on the participation of the Ministry of Health, Education, and thanks to the socialist system providing for the expansion of vaccination among the entire population. This vaccine has also been requested at the international level. We have also asked for the a patent for this vaccine. Here in this slide, you can see the development, the clinical development of this vaccine, always under the supervision of SECMEC, which is our regulatory agency. You can see here that in August 2021, we already received the authorization for an heterologous scheme among adults. And on September, and look at this date, September. On September, this was the first vaccine used among children, among the pediatric population. As I said, this was the first vaccine used in this mass vaccination campaign and the first heterologous scheme authorized in the world, because originally this kind of combined system had not been conceived for children. We realized that right now the scientific community is like endorsing this kind of combined scheme that rendered better results for the mass immunization, thanks to the strategic alliances among all the entities under Cuba Pharma. This has been authorized for emergency use not only in Cuba but also in Iran, which issued its authorization even before Cuba. During the preliminary evaluations, we obtained as many as 90% effectiveness. This has also been used in Nicaragua and in Venezuela. This requires a very important technological process. The protein antigen is produced by the Center of Molecular Immunology. And then we have the high-scale production, 300,000 doses per day, which takes place at Biocen. You may see this graph here. We at the Institute are in love with this graph because it illustrates the series of results obtained at different stages of the clinical trials. And at the first column here, at 0 time, when no vaccines were applied, we notice a difference as compared to the third column after the second dose of Soberana O2, and the third column reflecting the results after the application of Soberana Plus when antibodies are released. So this response is superior to the convalescence panel, which is the last purple column that you may see here. These reflect the response in the individuals that suffered from the disease. So this graph is an evidence of the results of the heterologous scheme used for Soberana O2 in a period of time of 28 days. There are other schemes and other grams evidencing immunogenicity, immune response. There are good results among adults from 60 to 80 years of age with a significant increase of the antibody response after the second dose and a significant impact after the third dose. There is also a significant immune response when it comes to virus neutralization against the different strains of the virus. Here you can see stage 3 with the predominance of the beta variant. These results were obtained before we analyzed the results obtained against the delta variant. The adverse effects after applying Soberana O2 and Soberana Plus show that this is a very, very safe vaccine. There are no serious adverse effects related to vaccination, and those which have been seen are the pain around the area of the injection. We didn't observe myocarditis or the Guillain-Barré phenomena, which speaks very highly about the very safe platforms used. And as to the phase 3 results, these were recently published in a preprint of MedRx, showing that the efficacy against symptomatic disease is 92.4% and against severe disease and death is 100%. These final results were seen in situations with the predominance of the Delta and Beta strains. We also were able to confirm these results in Iran, where clinical trials were developed. And also in August, there were more than 90%, 95.4% of circulation of the Delta strain. In the case of Soberana Pediatria, this was a beautiful clinical trial, thanks to the fact that we have been able to vaccinate children, and thanks to the health strategy followed in our country. We have been the first country which resumed the academic year with all the children vaccinated. This is the antibody response after the second dose of Soberana O2 as compared to the adults' immunization, evidencing that children from 3 to 11 years of age have a higher percentage, as much as 99.3% of seroconversion. We can also see in this new slide the interaction of inhibition after the 2 doses of Soberana O2, and how after the second dose, children showed a similar response to the 3 doses of among adults. So that is why the government decided to resume the academic year in November after children received their 3rd dose. Because after the second dose of Soberana O2, the immunization levels were significant, and after clinical trials stage 3, there is a very high percentage of efficiency. So it continues to be considered as a very effective vaccine. Then we have Soberana Plus, designed as a booster, authorized by the Cuban regulatory agency. And right now, we are in the process of receiving approval for to be used for children. Many mothers were worried about the vaccination to convalescent children. This has been already tried among adults, but in the case of children, uh, this had not been the case. But uh, very soon we will get the final results of the study and the approval of the regulatory agency. With Soberana Plus, we increase the immune response against the disease, and we have also requested the patent for this vaccine. Soberana 01 is still a candidate vaccine with a great potential. It is particularly efficient. We can show the corresponding slide. It is particularly efficient in among people with advanced ages. It is a candidate vaccine with a potential for being used as a booster. And we have also requested a patent, an international patent for this vaccine. Uh, there is a non-inferiority trial going on, as we did in the cases of Soberana 02 and Soberana Plus. There is one peculiarity in this case, which is that it boosts the immune system because it was designed and conceived by excluding the external membrane vesicle from its formulation using the same platform as the case of the meningo BZ, which was a very effective vaccine. We believe something similar could happen with Soberana 01. Sorry. So we believe that there is a this is a vaccine with very high standards, and several publications, namely Lancet, Regional Health, which have referred to the efficacy of Soberana 01 and Plus. And there are also other publications showing the results of Soberana 02, as well as ACC Central Science magazine has referred to these results. And MedRead also show the clinical trial phase 3 results. You may have the our contact point addresses as well as our website. You can pose as many questions as you wish. We also have a blog of the Finlay Institute, and we are open for new business opportunities based on the business model that were explained by Dr. Maida. So any information you will require, we can facilitate. Thank you very much.
Thank you for your presentation. Two questions. How many children have they used the full scheme of Soberana 2 and Plus? And when will this be finished with convalescent children? With the heterological 1.8 million children have already been vaccinated. And as I said before, this vaccination has allowed to be the first country to begin schools with children vaccinated. And the case of children that have gone through the disease, all the documents were given to the segment regulating authority, and next week maybe the authorization might be issued for the use of this to incorporate the children already vaccinated, and the parents will be peacefully knowing that all that has been settled. Thank you for answering those questions. There are two questions, and it has to do first with the present condition of the certification of vaccines in the WHO. In which situation this process is found. Cuban vaccines, Sovereign and Abdallah have already obtained the emergency use authorization by SICMEC. Also, they have already obtained authorization from different countries, like the case of the Islamic Republic of Iran, Vietnam, Nicaragua, and Venezuela. But the certification of WHO, we think that for our vaccines would be, the authorization would be relevant. Well, first, we concentrate on the development and production and immunization and vaccination of the Cuban population. Our certification process by WHO takes time. It involves human resources and material resources, and we obtain our 3 vaccines and having other 2 vaccine candidates, having stabilized our productive system, having already accomplished the vaccination of over 80% of the Cuban population, including children, adults, adolescents, convalescents, we have begun the export activity to several countries. We think that we are in a position to undertake an authorization process by WHO. Several exchanges have already taken place with authorities from the PAHO and also WHO. In the coming days, what is known as the Milton meeting, it's a meeting previous to the official request of the certification or authorization. That meeting is quite advantageous because the manufacturer of the vaccine has the possibility to exchange with the official authorities, with specialists, and from there on, we will be reporting and making the official request to submit our vaccine. We will begin with Abdallah officially, but we can say that it is on the way of this process, and the Cuban vaccine will also be certified by WHO. Thank you. The other question is after the latest news which we have been reading about. It is the new strain. Are our vaccines ready to cope with the new strain? It's a very recent strain. In previous opportunities, the international scientific community will have to study it. We Cuban scientists are also involved in studying it. We have a technological surveillance which is quite active in a permanent way, and our scientists have studied constantly all the strains that have appeared, and Cuban vaccines have proven, aside from being quite safe, quite effective against the different strains that have emerged. Our group of scientists works permanently studying the new strains, and we think that the domain of technological platforms in which these vaccines have been produced which also inherit the production of several of the vaccines that are part of Cuba's immunization process. I think there is a lot of potential there. If it's necessary, we may be able to make the necessary adjustments to our vaccines so that they will be able to tackle that new strain. Thank you for your answer. I thank the members of the panel. I thank all those that have been with us. We have come to the end of our transmission today. Tomorrow, we will have other activities, different lectures and panels, which will be of great interest for the community of business in Cuba. Okay, we resume on tomorrow. No, we continue tomorrow. Thank you.